All right, we have a couple people jumping in here. But since we're recording this and a lot of people will probably be watching it after the fact, we're going to try to, yeah, also keep people respecting their time. So I think, just to jump in and the intention of today, Bill and I were talking about it before getting on the call, just in prep for this, whatever we're calling it, live podcast, whatever. You know, the seasons that have come before grit are kind of like self-explanatory. Like when we hear strength, when we hear endurance, even though there's obviously different nuances of like strength training, that's a big umbrella, and endurance is a big umbrella. I think we all kind of get this concept and like, okay, these kinds of workouts, they're going to lead me to be faster or be stronger or whatever. I think the challenge, what's great about grit, but also challenging about grit, and I'll use Bill's term, is it is more like philosophical. So I think it requires a little bit more, not time, like a little bit more time and curiosity. But it's not as just, oh yeah, I get it, self-explanatory. So some of today is to talk about October because we're in the second month, but some of it's just to talk about like what does it mean? What is this grit thing that is not just physical, but also sort of mental? Yeah, so that's kind of the purpose of today. Bill and Carlene, do you guys want to chime in on that, or does that
Um,
resonate? Kind of.
yeah, I mean, I think that the cool thing about it is that there's and it isn't straightforward, right? Like there's so many different things you can get out of it. And, I talk about it all the time. Like after I do a workout, I'll be like, oh, like I took this from this workout and I didn't anticipate that, but that was
Mm.
what I needed in that moment. Or, in that like season of life that I'm in. And so I like take one thing compared to like if I did the workout 3 months from now or whatever, I might take something different out of it. And so like for me, it always like shifts towards what I need in that time. Um, is what like kind of like I usually take out of it. So it's cool because there's not just like one way or one thing you're going to get out of it, or like there's no, I hear it a lot that like did I do it right? Like well, did
Mm.
like what did you get out of it? Like did you get what you needed out of it? And not just like fitness wise, but like what are you trying to
Mm.
learn mentally, or how are you trying to grow in different aspects of your fitness.
Yeah.
So like that's why I really love it, is because it always sits like it always goes right into what I need it to. um, and and then it changes for me too.
Yeah.
I think the changing piece of that is really, I really resonate with that because in some seasons and some phases, grit might show up or be needed to be called upon in a very different way than like another season, And I think that's where when we were kind of architecting what would, when we're asked like, hey, we want to do this grit focus, like for us to kind of build it, it's like, okay, what are these sort of non-physical traits that can be trained physically? And that doesn't mean that it's not a zero-sum game. It's not like you have grit or you don't. Like you could have grit in one way. You can have, perseverance, curiosity, presence, whatever, however you define grit, like you can be able to kind of grind through. I think a lot of times people think grinding through is grit. And maybe in one season, in one application, and doing the hard thing or whatever that might be for a lot of people is also like the not it looks like the complete opposite of grinding it out. It means maybe you take a rest day, or maybe you, yeah, don't like and I'm like 10 fingers at me, like I can just go in and destroy myself in a workout to scratch an itch and feel better and be like, all right, I still got it. It's like, yeah, but maybe like, and truly in those seasons, what I really needed was to actually not go to the gym, or to go for a walk, or to address the thing that's actually underlying uh so I think it changes. It changes. And so when we were putting it together, we were thinking, okay, what are these non-physical traits with
Mm.
presence, curiosity, and perseverance being the three? And certainly wasn't saying that people have it or don't, or are in, they don't have grit until they've done the badge. Like that's not. It's like, hey, what can we explore from these themes, and how does this apply to my life and currently? And that's, I think, like a big grounding statement, hopefully.
Yeah, and I think just to go through like the why grit, that also doesn't mean that nobody had grit during strength, during endurance. Like,
Right.
it's these seasons have intentionality. And I think, maybe this is like playing devil's advocate or someone being critical of like, oh yeah, this is just about my fitness. Like I don't want to hear about like the mental stuff, and that's something in our work, like we've gotten that kind of,
Yeah.
I don't say criticism, but like approach. And what I think is important to understand is like you don't get to pick that. At a certain point, like your nervous system, your mind, and not to get into all the like all that, but that's not really a choice. Like that's happening. So we're all impacted physiologically by our psychology and psychologically by our physiology. Like they are just sort of woven together. And the intention of this season is maybe to like shine a light on that a little more and get curious about it. That doesn't mean it's not happening at other times, but I also think like without, one of the things Bill and I were talking about yesterday, like why the grit season, a lot of these workouts are different in like their scheme or their volume or their approach or even the repeating that workout. Like I can tell you full on, I hated the month of fire plunge, like hated it because it was like I knew every week, but I was saying, I ran a 5K on Sunday way faster than I thought I could. And in the last mile of like discomfort, I distinctly was like, this is not fire plunge. Like I've been there, I've done this. I can do this. I can do this. So if people are looking just for the physical, I can guarantee you, you will get that. It doesn't, have to be so like heavy on the psychology. But I think for me, like I don't usually do the same workout every week. That is new for me. And I think for people looking to change their body composition, change their overall fitness, you have to do something different. Your body will adapt. So even if just all you're looking for is like results, this season, by dint of having different kinds of workouts and changing things up from the usual, I think we'll do that for you. So there's a lot of reasons for grit, but definitely it's not just about getting into the like philosophical approach to fitness. It's definitely the physicality too. But yeah, so Carlene, you've done fire plunge. Like how many times have you done that?
I've probably done it 3 times before this month and then 4 times in this month. So probably like 7 times.
Mm,
So yeah, I was like, okay, I'm good.
yeah, yeah, good.
But maybe a month from now or like 2 months from now or whatever, I'm going to be like, okay, yeah, like let's do it again. I forgot, that feeling.
It's like
Right.
childbirth.
Yes, it's exactly. So I think that, and I really like, I love that workout just because of like the different things that I was finding and, getting out of it each time. So like for me, it really wasn't about, like completing it or not. I it was really about doing like the hard thing, and I kept catching myself, or it was really for me about doing the thing that I didn't want to do. So I kept catching myself being like, oh, I could like, why don't I just do it like this and it'll be easier.
Yeah.
Or I was like, okay, I completed it, now I got to go more calories, and I'm gonna use this bike this time because
Mm, mm.
it'll be different, and like, oh well, maybe I'll try it on or I failed, so maybe I'll try it on the assault bike instead of the echo bike. I'm like, no, just get back on the echo bike again. And,
Yeah.
and so there's a lot of things too, is like, I found is like, oh, like, can I get better? And, and it was like, well, do I have to have a PR every time? And can I just go in it with like blind faith? Like that was a big one for me, is like, can I just go in with like blind faith and like believing that I can do it when
Yeah.
all odds are
Hmm.
against me? So I really liked that aspect of it, that like I had to really like intentionally do that. So it was like, it was cool because I got something different out of each time. And um,
Yeah.
sometimes I was successful and some days I wasn't. So it's like, just because I was successful one day, my fitness was there one day, then it like wasn't necessarily there the other
Hmm.
day. Or was it the mental piece? Like, I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe both.
Yeah. Yeah. You're a different person every time you show up in the gym. And I think
Mhm.
that repeating is also a great reminder to all of us that it's not a linear path of every time you're in the gym, you're going to feel amazing. There's kind of like, okay, this is the same workout, the same bike, maybe at the same time of day, but man, like I feel great today, or today I don't feel great. Like that's just a reminder for all of us not to be so rigid with ourselves about like the expectation. It's like we're just different every day for so many different reasons. Yeah. Um,
Which I
does
think is
anybody,
a great
yeah,
segue to our theme this month of
yeah,
curiosity, because we can approach each new training session every time we step into the garage or, pick up the dumbbells, whatever. It's like being curious about how we feel that day, what's going on. This this theme of all three to me is most intriguing, um, to how we can build and develop grit. So I'm really looking forward to diving into it.
yeah. And curiosity, like I think that's something for workouts. I think it's common in 25 years of doing fitness. Like one of the things I've observed working with people is often, I think the human experience is we want to find something that works and we're like, okay, cool, this is it, this works. And you just kind of, we say like, we call it like channeling, like it's a term like Bill kind of came up with. And if you picture like all these options, but you get comfortable with this one thing that works and you sort of dig yourself this channel. Um, and we're inviting people to maybe like climb their way out of the channel for this month and like look around and be like, oh, you know, not maybe having that rigidity as much as we, just showing up. Let me just like do the thing, get it over with. We hear that a lot in fitness. Like, let me just get it over with. Let me get this workout over with. And instead, be open and not have this predicted outcome. I don't know, Bill, if you want to kind of chime in a little bit on the curiosity piece, because I think you,
Yeah, I mean, the prediction thing is huge because that's not, you don't subscribe to being a predictive species. That's the hand we're dealt. Our brain is constantly making predictions. And for example, and in my other job, as a therapist, I work with people on this all the time because we're always making these predictions based upon past experience. Past experience is informing our present prediction about what's going to happen in the future. So that kind of domino effect is part of just how our brain works. And which is why when we say it's not just about fitness, like, hey, we don't get to like divorce our physiology from like the hardware either of just how it works. Like we walk on two, not four limbs. And so the reason why curiosity is such a really powerful thing with grit is when you look at people, and this is an interesting example or exercise, maybe if you were to think about somebody who's really gritty, like make it personal. And yeah, we all like to think we're gritty or can be gritty and have that within us. But if we see someone in our life, we're like, man, this person really does embody like this grit thing, which who cares what the definition is, but your association with that person is they're gritty. They can, it's like, yeah, get curious about like, what is that? What is the things that they do? And you know, in my experiences, I've been around a ton of people who I would look at and have a great amount of respect and admiration for because of what I perceive as their grit, their ability to push daringly against hardships, where those hardships are overwhelmingly stacked against them, and yet they still show up. Like, that's, I think, the strength of the human spirit. And so it's like, well, how is that possible? And when they know maybe that, like, I'm not going to do it. Like, I love that about Fire Plunge. I love that about all these workouts, really, where it's like, we're a death by. Like, when you know, like, let's just say it's death by thrusters, and you're like, you just finished the round of 15, and you're like, there's no way, there's no way I'm doing 16. It's like, that's fine. That's not actually what matters. What matters is, will you do one, two, or three? How will you do in the next minute? And like, even though this hardship or this overwhelming, it's not going to happen for you, is present, you push against that and you step into it. And when we look at like the prediction of of our brain and our mind, and so you're able to suspend that prediction for a moment and have a new and a novel experience. And that's how you
Mm.
get out of, I know for a fact this is what's going to happen or that, and all of the maybe stuff that comes along with that.
Mm.
And so when somebody is gritty and it's like they step into hardships, not to prove or beat their chest or anything like that, but because it's like more of an expression of the
Mm.
human spirit. You know, there's a prediction that they're not buying into. And there's a prediction of like, you know what, that is maybe the expected outcome, but that isn't gonna determine how I choose to be in this moment, in the presence of significant hardship
Mm.
or overwhelming odds.
When you're talking about that, I'm thinking about like athletes at the Olympics that break records. And like, if we already knew, then what's the
Yeah.
point of competing? Like, if I
Yeah.
went to 5K and I was like, well, I already know I'm not going to break a 8 minute mile. I ran a 7:20. Like, I was curious, like, okay, maybe it is possible. And so I think the curiosity, we're sort of like, it's sort of a bigger term about like being curious and not limiting yourself. So some of the workouts, we're trying to have consistency. So we have a lot of opportunities to practice these. And there's, of course, there's some workouts where people are going to look at them, and myself included, be like, I'm not doing that workout. Like, I hate that. Like, fine, that's fine. But so one of the themes this month that we're like, okay, how can we, if we're talking about workouts and we're talking about not predicting, many people who have been doing workouts for a long time, you kind of know like what a minute feels like, right? We sort of have this like, oh, I know how many wall balls I can do in a minute. I know. So when we take that element of like time and some of those things that predict for us, time, reps, rounds, those are the things we can tinker with in workouts to force us kind of to be more curious. So the two sort of themes for the month, one is taking the clock and either taking it away completely or changing so we don't know when it's time to move to the next thing. And I think that clock element, we can talk about that first. Yeah, it sort of changes our orientation. If you don't know how long you're doing wall balls, there is that, I think for most of us, we could say like an initial panic of like, oh my gosh, well, I don't know how many before, because I don't know how much I have to rest and then put the ball down. And there's all these questions, right? Like, we're all naturally, that's what we're going to think. And then you realize like, okay, well, I guess we'll see. And it's kind of cool that workouts, we don't always have the freedom in our life to be like, I don't know, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens if I don't go to work or show up later. Like, we're not going to do that, but we do have that chance to practice it in workouts because it's not that serious, right? We can color outside the lines a little bit. So that is one of the components. So either being random on the timer and just noticing too. I think one of the big things that Bill and I talk about a lot is noticing. And that's not just obviously about workouts, but just like, can you notice what comes up? It's not good or bad, but as you're doing wall balls, if you're like, what is going on? When is this stupid thing going to beep? Like, that's okay. Like, it's just, that's the experience you're having. And so just like noticing, yeah, what your reaction was to not knowing. Like I really struggle with not knowing. And that's not just a fitness thing. Like I want to know everything and control things. And so it's kind of a good exercise for me to get to practice that. And that's where I think there is that sort of overlap with like, this can just be about your workouts and building that ability to be like, oh, cool, I did 50 unbroken wall balls. Or it can be like, oh, wow, I got to practice just letting go and not knowing. And that can be a bigger thing than just our physiology. Yeah. So that's kind of one of the
Well, and
things.
that
Yeah.
curiosity also is similar to the Until You're Good theme.
Right. That's the other theme if you want to
And
talk about that.
that's a big one that when we introduced that years ago in our, you know, in our stuff, like with our gym and members and people and seminars and all of that, that has always been one that's tripped people up because it makes sense. Like so much of there's so much on the being on the receiving end of being told, hey, this is what the task is, this is what the work is like, okay, cool. It provides certainty, and our mind likes certainty. We like to know. The brain likes to know. If you put somebody in an environment, and I think sometimes I'm a little skewed just because of my history with being in some crazy environments of unknown and uncertainty. So you have to get used to it. Otherwise, you'll drive yourself insane. And maybe I am insane, but point being, the brain, again, like
Don't
understanding
divert.
the brain naturally doesn't like uncertainty or unpredictability. It's just the way it goes. It doesn't like that. And it's like, okay, that's part of our thing. And so when a coach or a program says, hey, do 5 rounds of 10, 15, 20, it's like, good, like it fits in box. Everything makes sense. There's order. So of course, when there's this element of like uncertainty or chaos, it's like, ba ba da, no, 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 no. Just tell me what to do. Tell me how long I have to go for. Don't involve me in that. And we can hopefully like smile about that and laugh about that and also say like, wow, though, but like look at the sort of logical insanity of that. Like, don't involve me in my own fitness. It's like, wait a second. Like, we're all about like empowering the individual to be like, hey, more than nothing, consistency is key. These themes with whatever it might be. And, you know, we've learned a lot of this over a long period of time of like our job as coaches and as stewards of this where people trust you is also to give the power back to the individual. Like we've built our entire methodology and our entire gym and framework on we're the coach, we're the kind of like, yeah, we're guides, but like this, we exist to serve you. And putting the power back in the individual. And again, I think having an understanding of like maybe not every single time, but every now and then, really honoring that element of like
Mm,
you choose.
yeah.
And with the Until You're Good, that's a real tricky one because we there's what do you mean? Like there's this sort of not panic. I don't want to make it like that, but there's just this things don't make
Well, it's just,
sense.
it's
I don't know.
uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
uncomfortable. And
Yeah.
that's where it's like, and that's where we've seen this with so many different people. And that's where it's like there's no right or wrong. Like that's the other thing. And every person that
Mm,
we've worked with, which has been a lot of people, we always learn something new and different from each person. What's good for the 9, 10 people on this call is going to be 10 completely different things. The value in the process of being like, you know what? Like, I'm good. I'm good. Not
yeah.
because I proved it, not because I won, not because I did the most, but like I know I'm good and I'm honoring that and I'm accepting that
Mm,
and I'm receiving that like I'm good from
yeah.
like a
And
non-performative kind of standpoint.
And I think that takes practice. I think for most people, that's why we're doing it there's 4 Until You're Good workouts this month, because it is like, I don't know, like, I don't know. And then maybe hopefully if you've done a few of these, there's sort of this difference and shift in like, one, I think one of the things we do try to orient people towards is before you start the workout, what would good be for me today? And to the point of the fire plunge, it's going to be
Yeah.
different every day. So today, good for me is whatever it is with that workout. Maybe it is a metric. That's fine. Maybe it's more of a feeling. Maybe it's like I want to be able to walk out of my garage and complete the rest of my day, not
Right.
lay on the floor for 30 minutes. Or maybe it is I want to be like on the floor for 30 minutes. So, that's the thing. So having a little bit of that, and of course it can change, but going into the workout, like what would a win be today? And I think that's a cool thing to then go look for. Like, let me go find that win. When I hit it, I'm good. I will say the Until You're Good workouts, we tend to have them be a little more oriented towards intensity.
Right.
And the reason for them being like on the more intense side, and again, that's not an absolute, it's because it's a little more clear. Like you can get those signals of
Yeah.
like, wow, okay, I did 3 rounds and I really pushed it. I'm good. Not 10, 12 rounds. And we had a seminar where we had a girl, everybody else was done. And she went and went and went and another round. And Bill finally said to her, like, when is it going to be good? And she goes, when I'm like in pain
When I
or
hurt myself.
whatever,
When I hurt
when I hurt
myself.
myself. And that was a very honest,
Yeah.
like you talk about fitness being about something else. So, we don't want it to be this like endless thing. We want it to, if you can for that day. So I would say if you're going to do them with the essence of the workout, maybe do them on a day where you do feel generally pretty good. If you're not feeling great that day, again, your win might be just like going through the motions, and that's fine too. But if you want the essence of that workout, it's meant to be a little more like 2 or 3 rounds.
Yeah, a bit more punchy. Yeah.
Yeah, more punchy. And we've had people, and it takes time. We have people that are members of our gym who every week we have one of the workouts people can pick is that style. Hard, Until You're Good. We call it Engage. And we have people that it takes them 6, 7 months to get to the like, I did 2 rounds and I'm good. They're doing 4, 5 rounds, 6 rounds. And again, it's not wrong. It's just a process, but it's a cool concept and thing to just sprinkle into your fitness every now and again, not every day, but just feeling like paying attention to that. So that is that curiosity of like, yeah, I wonder how this is going to go. And Carlene, to your point, those are workouts that you could do over different times, and it could be different. You could do the same Until You're Good workout 4 weeks in a row and be like, holy cow, like this day, 2 rounds and I like crushed it. This round, I kind of just couldn't get there and it took me 5, whatever. It's kind of an interesting thing. We did program 4 different ones, but that process takes a little bit to sort of trust yourself. Ultimately, Carlene, have you done some of the Until You're Good, like that style, that workout yet?
Yeah. I think I have. I can't remember which one I did. But I know that I'm really curious about this, like this month, in terms of those, because I don't know how, like I don't know what I'm going to get out of it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know where I'm going to be at. And so for me, like that brings up like all that curiosity, and like, it can be that can be really intimidating to people. For me, that brings like a lot of excitement, to be able to have the opportunity to like be curious about it and not know what the workout's going to bring for me. Like you tell me to do Fran, I know how I'm going to feel afterwards.
Right.
And so like to not know, to not, like to get into a workout and not know what I'm going to feel like, or how long I'm going to go, that kind of stuff, for me brings excitement, because it's an opportunity to like just go somewhere that I haven't really been before, or go somewhere that I'm not anticipating when you're talking about like curiosity and like some of this, I think about like my mantra is like high confidence, low expectations. So like confidence that I've put in the work, that I'm capable, but not having any expectations on what it should look like, how I should feel, how I should do, da 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 da. And that allows me to, allows me to be successful within competing. But it also allows me to like grow and be curious, right? So I'm really excited because I don't know, like I'm excited to do like the first one and then see like what I need to, like where I go with it, I guess, so like I have no
Yeah,
idea.
that's
And
cool.
like
And
you
I,
said, and like to your point, like you said that like it might be something different every time. And so just because I take one thing from it the first time doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to get that same thing out of it the next time. I might,
yeah,
the following week be in a different place. So
right.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I
Mhm.
think like obviously Carlene, you're like an incredible athlete. You've competed at high levels, and I think it is not to keep banging this drum, but I think it's easy to categorize some of this stuff or the mindset stuff as like like it. No doubt at high levels that you need to have some of these skills. So it is not simply just about this soft kind of kumbaya situation. It's a very necessary thing to be able to, yeah, push past maybe what that predetermined expectation was of yourself. Like that's how you get better. I think the other thing is, and this is definitely more than a month practice, but one of the workouts, or a couple of them have like you rest as needed. And kind of like connecting a little bit to like those internal signals, like when can I go again, trusting yourself. Okay, well, how much rest do I need? Not yeah, just getting a sense of like what's happening in your body. I think so many of us, just how life is and how our life goes, you just kind of like on autopilot, and you just kind of do the thing, and sure, maybe your knee hurts or your shoulder hurts or something like that gets your attention. But the internal kind of like, okay, where's my breathing at? Is my breathing slowing down? Am I ready to go again? Oops, I kind of should have taken more rest, or maybe I took too much rest. Like just having a little bit more experimentation with getting to know, like, you live in this body. Maybe like, have an experience of connecting to that versus just, well, the clock beeped and gotta go. Um, so I think there's just so much room this month for yeah, just maybe surprising yourself, learning about yourself. Um, yeah, we can definitely, there's a couple
Yeah, Julie, let's do
questions.
it.
Yeah, Julie says, can I ask a question about balancing grit with identity, mental health? Yeah, please hop on and share.
So, I will be really upfront and say that I haven't done any of the grit workouts, yet very intentionally, mostly because I was training for the 10K. It happened a couple weeks ago, and I just didn't need the added stress of it all. But I'm also curious about when approaching these workouts, there are people who really attach how they do workouts to their identity and make it mean more than it should. And so for me, I've been concerned that this could be very powerfully helpful to some people, but also maybe not for other people who have too much of attachment to how they perform and what that means about them. And so I'm just curious, like, how would you approach telling people how to balance that out, like knowing when it's okay to go and explore that part of yourself with these workouts, and maybe the times when you should just do like just make it a regular day and not explore those parts.
I feel like you answered that question. I
Mhm.
think you perfectly said it. Like, hey, one, to kind of affirm that, like, yeah, I mean, was in, it was part of some of my own work, some of my own personal work. It's like, I'm only worthy of love if I perform well. And that doesn't just, that translates into literally everything. And so if I don't, let's just say it's the fire plunge workout, because that was kind of the first one, and that's kind of a known one. It's like, well, I didn't go 5 for 5 first time. I failed. Therefore, I'm a failure. And it's like, well, no, we're definitely saying that no, like that's not, no, the what happened was you did, let's just say 10 calories, 4 rounds in a row, and then on the fifth one couldn't get it. That's what happened. That was the experience. The explanation that I am a failure is just that. It's just a story. So maybe we do explore that by having this new experience or having this intentional experience of like, hey, it's okay to not do the workout as it's maybe written, or win the workout, or whatever that might be. And we can have a reparative experience of like, that's okay. That's okay. In fact, that's necessary. If we're one of these people who really attach a lot of worth and value to performance and identity. And also, if the person's own internal wisdom and guidance is like, you know what, I'm not really there right now. I don't feel like that's something that I get it. Yeah, okay, intellectually maybe that's okay, cool, but like not, that's not a right now thing. I think it's important to honor that intuition and that wisdom too, and be like, yeah, we trust. Like that's the thing. There's no failure. There's no right or wrong way to do this. Um, and the sort of mental health component of that, with the story we create about ourselves, others, in the world, if that's kind of being challenged, I think that we would certainly advocate for the individual to really listen and to really get curious with that, and know that like the power is yours, and that's wonderful, and that's the purpose of it. It's very, very empowering. There's no, kind of, there isn't really a finish line on this thing
Mm.
to where it's like, oh, I validated it, or I didn't, or I succeeded, or I failed, or this or that. It's, um, does that answer or help clarify anything?
It does. And I know I used to be in that space of like how, like I used to have to RX everything, and now I'm just not. I'm just like, I I can't let that be
Mm.
like the only way I feel successful.
Yeah.
But I also know like this period of time in my life where things feel completely out of control, I would like this one thing to feel like I have some control of it. And so that's sort of how I've been approaching the workouts. And even when like training for the 10K, like I was just like, I can't be time bound on this. Like, can I just finish it and let that
Right.
be the goal?
Mm.
So that's kind of where I am right now.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, I
think
love that.
I think that's awesome. And I think that you're describing also like, the outlet for some of this is fitness. Like you're exploring these things about yourself through fitness. And I think like I can relate completely. I just said to Bill the other day, we had this discussion. We've done this thing called the 4x4x48 in the past. So you run 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours, and you end up running 48 miles. And I love running. But I said to him, maybe I'll train for it. And we got after this conversation, and obviously Bill knows me very well. And it did kind of get to the point where like this would be a wonderful way for me to just distract from my life, train for this thing, and control, like, because I feel like things are out of control in my life. And I don't know that that's, to Bill's point, it's not right or wrong. It wasn't like, don't do that, that's wrong. But just like it was something for me to bring awareness to. And I think, it's not about just running. If I like to run, go run. But fitness can be this thing that is a tool that can be for good, and there's so much opportunity in it. But I think it sounds like you have a lot of awareness around, yeah, just using it appropriately. And what's great about the grit workouts is they're there, they're not going anywhere. And it's kind of a neat thing to feel like, oh, you know what, like let me revisit those, or seeing like different seasons of our life where something could be more valuable or not. And I know Carlene has had a lot of experience with, I mean, you've shared, I think, openly, Carlene, like your identity, and you are very public about sharing your experiences with coming from the world of like intense training and what that means. And, I don't know if you want to chime in on how you navigate that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a thing for me that there's I'm never like there. I've never arrived, right? It's something that I have to be intentional on and continually work towards. But like I can completely relate. And I think that what what I think about it is um I I think that like when I hear you say like what about the people that are not ready to give that up? And I think what this does is, like you said, like bring awareness to it. Like number one, you bring an awareness to it. And when those like if there's somebody that is struggling with that and is like, I'm not ready to give this up yet, that's totally fine. Like there's no like right or wrong in it, but like you're bringing awareness to it and you're acknowledging like, yes, this is a situation for me. Like I, I'm placing my value and that's what it needs to be right now. And to be honest, like that's, like you said, I have shared that there was a time in my life where I was like, yep, this is where I'm at. And this is going to fill the void for me. And I was completely happy with that. But I had something that like gave me a little spark of like awareness that allowed me to, when I was ready, when it was right in my life, to be able to make those changes and or to be willing to set myself on the path of like making that a change in my life and not living in that. So I think that, what this does is that if if people are out there and they're like, yes, this is like, I'm not willing to go there right now. That's totally fine. This is giving you a spark. And when you are ready, like when it is time for you, yes, these workouts are going to be there and you have the opportunity to practice these things through these workouts, and so there have been times in my life where I was like I can really like dig in and accept like the challenge of these type of workouts. And there's times when I'm the same as that, like I'm like, yeah, I'm not really willing today, and like that's okay for me. And so I think that I think a reminder too that like we hear grit and we think that it has to be super hard physically. Like it's going to be hard physically and I have to send it and I have to like, if I'm gritty, I'm laying on the floor dying. And that's not necessarily the case. Yes, there is a physical aspect of it, but it is all relative. So like for me, gritty might look different than for someone else, or I might have to like do something a little bit different, right? To be able to like fully get what we're trying to get out of this. And it doesn't necessarily, I can customize the workout to make it not quite as physical, but still be able to get the curiosity, the perseverance through the workout. Because it's not necessarily, always like a workout that is going to leave me on the floor completely. That doesn't mean that I didn't do it right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
That's a
can
huge
completely
point.
relate to all of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's that one of the underpinnings of our, how our view on fitness, kind of on Kay and I side, is agency, and that is something that isn't just related to fitness. That's something that's, we're talking about like being a human. This is like human stuff. And when someone feels, where their life is like chaotic or out of control, there's a bit of a stripping away of power and of agency. And so depending upon the season, um, that's where we do think fitness can be a consistent practice to express and develop this really vital component of agency. And we define agency as the ability to choose among choices. And that includes the choice of not doing something. And if we choose that, and when we choose that with intentionality, with value, with like, hey, this is authentic, this is real, this is honest, I'm choosing not to do this. Great, wear it, be it, wonderful. You're showing that like your sort of sovereignty as a human being is being honored and valued. And that's hopefully very empowering. And also, we know that that can be really difficult because there's culture, there's society, there's performative, there's social media, there's all of these things that don't just make it a like, do I want pizza with pepperoni? Do I want pizza with no pepperoni? Like, well, easy choice. Like I say to clients, like, yeah, this stuff isn't like ordering a pizza where you're like, yeah, okay, and then 15 minutes later, pick it up. So that agency bit, I think, is part of the grittiness of like of to Carly's point too. It's not like, oh my gosh, I have bodily fluid leaking out of my ears because I just went full send on a workout. It's like, man, and for me, honestly, like I'm in a season where coming off of a month and a season really of like I'm not emptying the tank in literally a single workout. I'm just not there. That's not honest. That's not true to where I'm at. And I do think that like honest fitness is how we can continue to be consistent, continue to be
Mhm.
empowered. And I'm doing workouts now, and I'll probably realistically for the next month, my workouts are going to be like, yeah, I'm walking out of this workout knowing I got more in the tank. That's what I need to refill the tank right now. That's what's honest and true.
Yeah.
And to me, from my previous version of myself too, that's extremely gritty because it was like, how dare you ever do that? No. What does that say about you? You're weak. You're a quitter. You're all these things. It's like, that's an old story. And that was, we'll categorize that in the fiction genre. That's not true.
I think it's like such a great conversation. I really appreciate Julie like bringing that up, and I think
Yeah.
a lot of people could benefit from what we talked about.
Any
Does
other
anybody have
questions from the
any other?
chats or
Yeah,
whatever? Yeah, go ahead.
anybody? Yeah. Um, so yeah, I mean, this month we would just invite everybody to, yeah, see what comes up. And grit is 3 months. And this month again, curiosity is kind of the theme, and all these themes there's overlap, right? So last month was perseverance. That doesn't mean that this month does not require perseverance and all that. But yeah, I would say the bonus is if you can, there's physical benefit to these workouts. And again, I know, folks who have been doing street parking a really long time, um, we all have preferences, and there's workouts we like to do or ones we prefer. Some of these definitely are a little more like, ooh, this isn't necessarily the kind of workout I've usually done, or maybe the structure. Um, but yeah, just being open and, take what serves you, and stuff that you're like, no, that's not for me. It might not be today, it might be one day, but you know, I I like to tell this story because I think the part of it is it's a process. Bill started years ago.
Mhm.
I was like competing in CrossFit and very rigid. Like I'm still very rigid. I'm working on that. But like with my workouts, like don't tell me. Bill would often say, and still does, like, can I like show you something or help you? I'm like, no, like do not. Like I'm doing my thing. Um, but he started like being more curious about things before I was ready. And it took me probably 2 years to like catch up to that curiosity. And now, like, being willing and open, and like when I started being more curious, doing, kind of to Julie's point, like maybe not RXing everything, maybe taking a day, whatever those things that were for me to be curious about. Yeah, it took some time, and we were on very different timelines for that. So some of the stuff now that's very like, of course, if I don't feel like I could do a high intensity workout, and I'll just go for a run. Previous me, to Bill's point, like that story before was like, I don't care if I don't feel like it. Like that's what today is. Today's Tuesday. That's what like there's all these things. And all of that is very like made up. We made it all up, right? We made up the whole thing. So I think what's really cool about street parking also is there are so many options. If it's the day and the week and the you don't all align, there's like so many great other things you could do that suit you. So we certainly, our relationship to street parking and all the members and providing these things, it's going to live in, Sisyphus still lives in there, and these workouts will still live in there. And I hope, if anything, if it's not a now thing, it's something that just is there that you can always return to, when it is time. Yeah. Any other questions? Anything, Alex, Arlene, anybody have anything before we close it out?
I'll speak a little bit about, I did my fourth and, well, I don't even want to say final fire plunge, because I do think I'll be doing it again, maybe a few more times. Last night, I filmed each of them, as I do, and I clipped the very last effort, the last few seconds of each effort, and put them, I spliced them together. And what I noticed, and I knew like I was trying to be more intentional, I noticed after my first one how negative and like whiny, and like I was just full of complaints. I was just like, this is horrible, but like very verbal about it in the video. And like so dramatic, like I laid on the ground, I was just writhing around, and my last one, I finished, got off the bike. I was obviously like I was still feeling all the feelings, but I was just much more stoic about it. And I don't know if that comes with experience and like just knowing something about knowing what I was getting myself into, and just the proximity of the other efforts, and like how close together they've been, and just like how present that feeling has been in my, and to, kind of like everyone has said, but physiologically, I was still experiencing, literally, I was like, this is the first time I was like, this is such a good name for it, because I literally feel like I've been plunged into fire.
Yes.
And that was still true, in the third and fourth effort, attempt. And yet I was able to face it with more, stoicism. And to me, that was such a huge win. And I should say, I never got better. In fact, my third one, I did a little worse. It took me 10 minutes instead of 9. But otherwise I was like fairly consistent. I never got out of like the second.
Well, your numbers didn't change. I don't know if you could say you didn't get better.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
And also to that, while it took me 9 minutes almost each time, yesterday, my 5th effort, I finished 6 seconds faster than I had in the past. So there was some progress. But anyway, and it like, again, like there's some overlap with the themes, because that theme was perseverance, but it was so neat to just be curious about my experience with it, and to like, even in retrospect, to go and look back and see, to witness myself change, because I was like, ooh, I don't like how dramatic I was about that. Like I want to know that I can face these difficult painful, uncomfortable situations with a little bit more
Mhm.
grace.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was just a really neat experience, and I'm looking forward to I have my week laid out. Kariana, I think you and I are a little bit similar in that regard. And I'm doing the Wednesday's random timer workout on Thursday.
Mm.
And I'm really looking forward to that experience. And I'm trying to approach it from like beginner's mindset, like be a witness, um,
Yeah.
like a third,
Yeah.
second or third
Yeah.
party, kind of remove myself because of, having over a decade in this space. Like I do know myself really well, almost to a fault, because I have
Yeah.
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 channeled
Yeah.
so deep into like what I know of what I'm capable of. But I'm also in a very different place. I'm, 2 children removed now, and
Mhm.
I'm in a space now where I am curious about what I'm capable of. I've started to believe this story of I'm busy, I'm just checking boxes, I'm still showing up, I'm consistent. But I think I'm ready for more. So I'm really
Yeah.
excited
Nice.
to see
Cool.
Yeah.
what happens.
I
Yeah.
think
Like
one
the
of the things,
secret, sorry.
yeah, I was just gonna say about fire plunge, that workout is, there's a whole write-up we have about it that is about it's about tolerance, like building tolerance. So you did build tolerance, and some of that, and we ice plunges, fire plunges, anybody that's done an ice bath, that first time in, or the first time of the season, you're like, I'm going to die. Like that is what's happening in your body, and your brain is telling you that. And then it's learning, like, I'm not going to die, I'm okay. After that first time, it's amazing. The second time, third time, it's always cold. I mean, it's never like, this is amazing. But that, there's something that does change. So you're developing tolerance, and that's a skill I think we all, who couldn't use that in life. But Bill, were you gonna say something to?
Well, I was just gonna say let's let the cat out of the bag, and the secret that every single workout we do has these 3 elements of grit: perseverance,
Right.
curiosity, and presence. So
Yeah.
it's not like fire plunge is only this. It's like, no, no, no. Every single workout you do calls upon these 3 traits where you can be like, oh, they're distinct from one another, but also related to each other. And so this sort of almost like a little bit of like a class. Our goal and our intention has been from the beginning, from before this even came to be, and when we were initially asked about it, was like, hey, that would be really cool to create an experience for people that's kind of like a class and kind of like a learning, that then they hopefully can be like, oh, I now have this language that I can speak out there too, and some tools like random timer or UIG or these other elements, like apply it elsewhere outside of the like grit program. Um, so to see through the lens of grit as sort of bucketed as perseverance, curiosity, and presence, you'll see everything. Like every workout, you'll see like, oh yeah, that's those 3 themes again in there. And hopefully, like by having experiences through the season, that can be the sort of instruction and teaching, and then go off and go do good things in service to how you want to express your health and fitness.
Cool.
Yeah, that's actually funny. As you're saying that, I'm like laughing because there's been multiple times throughout the week after I do the grit workout and I'm like, oh, I get an opportunity to practice this again. And I've like actually thought like, was this intentional? Like, because there's been times where I'll be like, oh, you get another opportunity to practice what you were working on in the grit workout. Like,
Mm.
you get an opportunity to practice, believing in yourself and, just seeing what happens in this workout. And so it's been really cool to just become aware of like all these other times when the workout, that was not necessarily the intention, but I can, I get to be aware of it and see it more just in everyday workout. So
Cool.
Nice.
Well, thank you guys. And please know, like, we're always, if anybody has a specific question for us or even like challenge, or like, we're super open, and if someone wants to deep dive into something or the why, like, we're always here. So, and if you do, for those of you listening or watching this, definitely on Facebook, like, tag our names specifically, because we don't always there's just so much on Facebook that, like, it just, flies by. So thank you guys for hopping on, and yeah, we look forward to connecting with you guys in the next couple months. Have a great day.
See y'all.